Let's start out with a simple picture story. Emily is sitting in the front of the class. She is able to hear the problem correctly. Susie has 5 apples. Her horse eats 2, and 1 apple has worms. How many apples can Susie eat? Jim is sitting in the back of the classroom. He hears the picture story much differently. Susie has apples. Horse eats worms. How many can Susie eat? But Jim isn't the only one not catching the whole story.
So there's a couple of studies that say that kids in classrooms miss 30 to 50% of what a teacher says every day. Then if a kid sits in the back of the room from the front of the room, there's a distinct difference in what they can hear too. Another study out of Florida said when a student sits in the back of the row, every 3 feet that they're away from their teacher, they're missing more and more and more, and even up to 50%. So we want to make every seat in a classroom equal, so the kids in the back row get the same information as the kids in the front row.
Well, there's all kinds of things that can cause noise in a classroom. Inside the classroom, you have other children who are talking or shuffling their papers or moving their chairs or their desks. That causes a certain amount of noise. There are ventilation systems that you don't necessarily think of, fans, air conditioning, heating. There's noise outside in the hallway. There can be noise construction outside of the building. And all of those things contribute to the background noise that our kids are listening in. Kids need the signal or the teacher's voice to be about 15 decibels above all of that noise. But in the average American classroom, the signal only gets about 4 decibels above that noise, which is not a loud enough signal for kids to hear. The U.S. Department of Ed estimates anywhere between 30 and 40% of kids on any given day have up to a moderate hearing loss due to ear infections, allergies, other ear, nose, and throat issues. So that's 7 or 8 kids in a classroom that have unrecognized hearing loss, which can lead to special education referrals that really weren't necessary. So kids losing just a little bit of ground every year and then need additional help.
As we hear from people across the country, there's a lot of implementations in school districts of classroom audio systems. It's not a new idea, but it's kind of new to us to think this way, that sound fields should go, or classroom audio systems should go in classes so kids can hear. In other school districts around the country, and even some in Nebraska, it's a standard sort of equipment for school classrooms.
I just put it around my neck and I turn it on, and then the only time I turn it off would be if I am teaching a small reading group. Just anytime I wouldn't want my voice to be amplified throughout the whole room. The students are more attentive. I can whisper and they can still hear me. I never have to use a loud voice. The objective is for all students to achieve at high levels, and I feel that this system aids in that objective.
Okay, and what do you know about the 2 letters that say th, th, th at the beginning of 3? What 2 letters say th, th, th? Do you know?
T and H say th, th, th. So look, TH says th, 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 and it starts with a T, but we don't hear that ta-ta sound like we hear in Tiki Tiger.
But it does start with a T. Great work. Crisscross legs, hands in your lap. Good job. Okay.
It helps me and the other kids hear better. I like it because it's kind of like a movie theater.
And what's interesting about LPS is they're really working on students becoming student leaders and student teachers, and all the reciprocal teaching that's going on between each student. Asking one student, tell me how you got to that math problem. Give me your reasoning behind it. So with a microphone, students can explain what they would have done before, but now their voice is slightly amplified and very clear and filling the room. So every student in that classroom gets to hear how they got to that math problem. Those students are now learning from each other because they can hear from each other.
Really loud.
Because all of the letters are capital. And when they're capital, they make it, the reader wants them to make it like you read it loud.
What really struck me about this technology is that it addresses a basic need. This hearing well in a classroom isn't a fad. Not like the latest gadget, but like lights are a classroom technology. You wouldn't decide to, well, we're going to light half the classroom close to the teacher, and the kids at the back, well, they can learn to read in the dark, it'll be just fine. You know, you'd never say that. And I really think that the sound field system is a technology like lights, like air conditioning and heating. It's just making an environment that's conducive to learning.
I think anytime a child's not engaged fully for whatever reason, and in this case their ability to hear instruction, that has an effect in the long term. So our job as educators is to make sure that we have the optimal learning environment where children can hear and have access to the curriculum as much as humanly possible.
Well, if students can't hear what the teacher's saying, if they can't hear the instruction, if they can't hear the directions, then of course they can't complete the tasks and the work that we'd like them to do. We don't know what they know. And so it's incredibly important for them to be able to access the directions so that they can show us what they know. Some students look like they're having behavior problems, but they're not. It's the fact that they didn't hear what we said, couldn't understand what we said, and so they just don't do what we ask them to do. So it's not just for children with special education needs, it's for all children.
The Here to Learn project is an initial pilot program to really test out these ideas. We want to put 100 sound fields in 100 classrooms in 4 elementary schools. And then we're going to watch what happens and study with key measures about what the previous literature has shown, and do we see that for Lincoln. We're right now raising funds to pay for each sound field. We have a partnership with the Lincoln Public Schools Foundation. We have a fund there called Here to Learn, and any kind of monetary donation would be greatly appreciated.
I'm a teacher. Everyone shout out teacher, go. Teacher!
I feel that students are able to hear me more clearly, and all students are able to have access to the same information. And that just aids in giving a classroom environment that is set up for high achievement for all students.